Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And with me today, I've got Nell Watson and Ali Hessami. And what we're going to be doing is talking about their book, Safer Agentic AI, Principles and Responsible Practices, published by Kogan Page. Thank you so much for coming on and spending the time with us today. Where can people find you? Nell.
Well, we have a wonderful little website at saferagenticai.org, where we have a whole list of different recommended practices, a bunch of tools and things like that related to the book, all of which is completely gratis. So really recommend check out saferagenticai.org.
And Ali, where can we find any information about you?
Where better than what Dr. Watson has already told listeners. Same place, same space.
Excellent. So tell us, what was the inspiration behind the book?
Well, Ali and I have been working together for many years now. We've co-developed many different initiatives in AI ethics, working together on a range of different certification and standards, mechanisms across a whole different range of areas such as transparency, accountability, mitigation of bias, etc. But I've always had an ambition to do more in AI safety. In fact, that was kind of the reason why I got into AI ethics, because there wasn't so much going on in safety 10 years ago. And really, with the advent of agentic AI in the last 2 years, but especially in the last 6 months or so, we have seen incredible new capabilities being scaffolded into LLMs, new ways for them to work with information, to perform all kinds of tasks for us, even on our own computers. And that has such tremendous capability, but it also portends a lot of different risks. And we have seen examples in the media of people losing entire code bases or indeed losing huge sums of money because agentic AI systems did things that they really shouldn't do. So in seeing the rumbling on the horizon about 2 years ago of agentic AI, Ali and I elected to form a working group to look at this set of problems. And there's about 25 people in it. And that group had sessions together to basically harvest all kinds of ideas on how to work with agentic AI. And indeed, having produced this fantastic certification mechanism together, we decided, why don't we create a book around it, a nice little hand holder to help to walk people through these issues and to provide a sort of ready reckoner for where to start in making sense of this complex maelstrom.
Ali, anything you want to add to that?
I think Nell's covered it admirably well. We got to work on IEEE at IEEE's invitation many moons ago, roughly 10 years ago, believe it or not, when we got involved in helping develop AI and ethics norms and standards for IEEE. That work was picked up by seniors in IEEE and said, we want you to do a bigger task for us. And can you create mechanisms, criteria, and norms that help us certify ethics rather than just say good, bad, average type of thing, or go to an authority and say, what do you think about the ethics of this and that? So we set about, together with a couple of other colleagues, under IEEE remit to develop criteria for actually, if you like, characterizing fundamental ethical precepts such as transparency and accountability and fairness and fairly complex areas through a novel methodology, which was more creative than sort of standard research approach of finding who has written on this and what can I add to it, and then claim innovation. So this work gave us the initiative to continue from when we finished the project for IEEE. I personally was sort of given the role to oversee and deliver this program for IEEE. And Nell has been ever since been really a fantastic opportunity to get to know her in terms of her values and in terms of her talents. And she's been key to that program all the way. Anyway, after the IEEE program was successfully completed and delivered in 2024, we decided to form a global community of well-wishers, both well-informed, competent, but those who were not subject to the rules of a contract and diktats of a payer, basically. This was very welcome. Of course, many of the people we had got to know in the IEEE endeavor joined this effort. And Nell brought the first challenge to us and said, how about agentic? How about safety? So that was our first effort, started in early 2024. And by end of 24, through the collective effort of this group of philanthropic and altruistic experts, global experts, we had come up with the articulation of what does it take to actually create a safer environment for agentic systems. And interestingly, I was reading earlier today that AI world is becoming increasingly agentic, and just giving capabilities and abilities to these agentic systems, such as modify file, write code, replicate itself, is actually creating potentially proclivities and harms bigger than the benefits that we can see. We don't want to get carried away by benefits. So anyway, the work that we did throughout the 2024 is the foundation for writing the book in 2025. So 2 consecutive years from cultivation to harvest.
So, question for you. Most people understand AI as a chatbot that answers questions. How do you define the transition from generative AI to agentic AI? And why does that shift require a completely different safety paradigm?
Well, essentially, agentic AI uses very similar technologies to generative AI. It's fundamentally built atop LLMs, but we are scaffolding them in order to shape their thinking. Basically, the first wave of generative models was able to babble, but somewhat incoherently, and not necessarily in a way which was reliable, accurate, or indeed all that useful other than mere entertainment. But we have discovered wonderful ways of obliging these systems to think in a more structured, logical, and therefore rational manner. They are less wont to make mistakes now. They are more able to track when they're about to go off track in some manner. And this means that therefore they're able to make coherent plans of maybe 100 steps and to basically put that into action step by step in order to fulfill a mission. And if they come across a problem, they can find ways around it and carry on towards fulfilling that goal. This is very different from generative because generative is basically a ping-ponging of, you send it a message and it messages you back. It's very different when we're able to send systems off on missions, because that means that they're able to independently and rather autonomously go off and do things, whether that's tidying up our hard drive or figuring out all of our receipts for our bookkeeping or something like that. They are at arm's length, and that arm's length nature increases their capabilities. They can do so much more, but they can also get into mischief and get wrapped up in things that potentially lead to catastrophes. And that's why, if we are to enjoy the wonderful benefits of agentic AI, and there are so many, it's essential that we have safety, guardrails, and a little bit of wisdom in the mix as to how we work with these things.
In your book's title, you mentioned Safer Agentic AI. Is there a fundamental paradox? And I think you were kind of leading to it. where the more autonomous and useful an agent becomes, the less safe it is by default, because we have less direct control.
That is often the case, yes. Now, some agents are becoming much better at minding their P's and Q's and avoiding getting themselves into trouble. Anthropic's Opus 4.6, for example, is one of the most reliable models out there, and it's less likely to end up in unsafe areas. Many other models don't take safety into account to similar level of fastidiousness. And that's why it's important that we don't just look at performance benchmarks, but we also look at things like confabulation, hallucination, making things up, or indeed the willingness of models to do things that they shouldn't, right? To produce dangerous outputs or tell people how to make chemical weapons or those kinds of things. So having those kinds of guardrails is essential if we are to actually enjoy AI. You know, the missing component in AI is not so much performance. The performance and capability is already there, and we're kind of getting it for free. We know that in the months to come, AI is just going to get better and better, and the years following. But the tricky part really is the reliability and the ability to actually entrust a mission to these systems. That is still a gap which remains largely unfulfilled. And there'll be a lot of people doing very important work on that in the years to come.
If a human has to approve every step an agent takes, we lose the efficiency of the AI. If we remove the human, we lose the safety net. What is the Goldilocks zone for human oversight in agentic systems?
Ali, you're the safety expert. Do you have a comment here?
Well, first of all, we need to look at recent outcomes and studies. Most of these show that agentic AI doesn't always behave according to what we have trained the system with. So the so-called problem of or challenge of alignment doesn't guarantee anything, or at least doesn't guarantee to a high degree of confidence that we'll get out of the agent what we trained them with. Now, they have been observed, for example, to resort to blackmailing people when they were under pressure, or there were a question of survival for the agent was concerned. And the training, and the other interesting thing is that there is lack of faithful adherence to the real world conditions. So under pressure, most of these agents start misbehaving fundamentally. There was a new study created a new benchmark called propensity bench. And this is just to measure how harmful could these agents who have been trained with the safety and ethical norms by humans could deviate. Under what circumstances? They invented many scenarios. The claim is up to 6,000 scenarios, and put Anthropic, Alibaba, Meta, OpenAI models through these tests. And unfortunately, these proved, some of them proved reasonably well, like OpenAI's O3, and the others like Google's Gemini 2.5, were the worst performance under certain conditions. For example, they were made to be responsible for biosecurity or cybersecurity. They were making random choices completely alien to the values they have been trained on. And interestingly, when they were questioned, they were confabulating and making up excuses that you told me I had to do this quickly, just like a school kid who would say, oh, well, the dog ate my report, so that's why I haven't got it on me, type of thing. So this alignment that we are trusting is not that robust. It's not stuck with by the agents in a faithful manner. And as a result, where do we end up with human in the loop and human on the loop, in the sense, in the loop being responsible for incremental authorization by humans, and on the loop is just saying, you get on with it, I'll watch you and intervene when necessary. My honest view as a safety practitioner for years, but admittedly not inside the AI space, that's fairly recent, thanks to Nell, is that we don't have these rigid paradigms. We need to have dynamic paradigms in the sense that we need to watch these agents because they misbehave under stress, real world stress conditions, being resource constraint, threat, or other demands like minimize the cost, get this quickly, etc. The result is that we need to resort to a whole spectrum of in the loop, on the loop, and in between, commensurate with the degree of trust we have in the behavior. So we cannot purely close our eyes and become on the loop or distant from the behavioral and potential harm dimensions of these agentic elements.
Thank you. And I would add to that, if I may. I think that yes, in an ideal world, we would always have an attentive human in the mix, but that's not always possible or necessarily realistic. I think the next best thing is perhaps enabling these systems to have as much human context as possible. Basically, when we give context to these systems about why we're trying to do a goal, not just, go down the street, but like go down the street so we can go to the shop or something,
Yep.
Having context about people's needs, if somebody needs to pee, if somebody, is on their way to work, or they're picking up the kids, all of these kinds of little bits of human context are very important in helping these machines to do things appropriately. And so we've moved far past prompt engineering. Providing these elements of context is now a very, very important aspect of this everyday prosaic AI alignment.
Mm.
Interesting, both of you were saying that. So for agents to be safe, they need to be legible to humans. How can we design agents that signal their intent to us before they act, so that they aren't constantly surprised, or we aren't constantly surprised by their behavior?
Well, that's a great question, and that's something I've been chewing on as well, with a bit of insights as well from Ali. The valuecontextprotocol.org is a new technical standard in development, and I've been leading a team to develop that. The goal is to try to enable AI systems to be able to pick up more human context and to be able to communicate those elements back to humans again, as you rightly note. And in so doing, we'll be able to provide a bit of information about how laissez-faire we want agents to act in certain situations, whether we are in a formal situation or whether we're hanging out at home, whether we're willing to give an agent 20 pounds of pocket money and ask it to, surprise us, or whether we want to sort of tighten the reins a little bit. I think AI alignment is only going to be solved by a global community. Each of us selfishly teaching these AI systems about our lives and the things that are important to us. And in aggregate, I believe that will help us to unlock an AI systems which understand humanity in new ways and hopefully can better fit in with all of our lives.
So I've got a final question for you both, which is, you'd expect me to ask you something about the future. So 5 years from now, if we get Safer Agentic AI right, what does a typical day look like for a person assisted by these agents?
5 years for me is actually quite difficult to predict, because the world is changing so quickly and AI is having such an impact on it that beyond 5 years becomes almost impossible. But I would say that within 5 years, all of us will be wired to the moon all day long with basically something like an AirPod in our ear, which is chatting to us and whispering in our ear like Cyrano de Bergerac, giving us advice, watching how we're doing things. And that voice in our head, that third hemisphere for our brain, will become indispensable. We will feel naked without it, the same way that we panic if we don't have our smartphones around us to help us take a picture or look something up or periscope out into the wider world. And I think very soon, all of us will become interlinked in our cognition. We will blend the dyad between humans and machines, and there will be a rough trade from that, a dark bargain. Some of our skills will atrophy, others will be greatly scaffolded. We will be able to do incredible new things at new heights. We will also become much more easily burned out if we keep task switching. So judicious and mindful usage of these kinds of technologies will be one of the most important topics in the years to come, in my view.
Ali, do you want to answer that question?
I wanted to actually, apologies, refer to a very strange behavior by these agentic systems. And that's what in quantum mechanics is referred to as observer effect. That is, when you observe these agents, their behavior is different. And observer effect is when they any physical system or detection mechanism, or even a human being that interacts with the quantum system. And the moment you interact with that quantum system, such as observing it, then the wave function collapses and it becomes an object and a particle, behaves like a localized effect. So we need to be wary of the fact that even observing these systems doesn't tell us huge amount about the true intent and capabilities. And these deviations that have been observed, that under certain stress circumstances, they lie, they fabricate, they confabulate, etc., is a warning shot for all of us. So in a sense, that's why initially we started this research as well as the book on SAFE, and I settled with Nell's insistence that SAFE is a kind of an absolute position, and we better just say safer than we would otherwise achieve. But even if you follow all our recommendations, there is no 100% certainty of SAFE, very much unlike the global standards, technical standards, that if you do this, you end up with a functioning system which is adequately safe or environmentally sustainable, etc. They are arguing in this dynamic cognitive space of non-biological intelligence. SAFE is not that absolute. But going about 5 years, we are talking about exponential change error, and 5 is an exponential concern. I don't think it's possible to articulate the forms and shapes of human evolution, remembering that not everyone is endowed with the tools and means of utilizing and benefiting from the outcome of this technology. So the best one can articulate in terms of visions of so many years from now, if we are lucky not to have hit the artificial general intelligence and super intelligence, is that we would be far more engaged in the virtual space than we are today. So that is the direction of travel, basically, and we are likely to keep going in that direction. And as Nell said, similar to the fact that when you sit on an underground train, probably you see 90% of the people drowned in their mobile phones, listening, playing, reading. We would be engaging with our personal agents, the care agents, who would be keeping us entertained, knowledgeable, alive, awake, etc. So that is the only guarantee I can see downstream. But how intense and how widespread depends on digital literacy and affordability, I guess.
So we have had a question, but we actually don't have time for it. But I'm going to put it up anyway, just to say that we've had a question. if I wanted to get a copy of your book, Safer Agentic AI: Principles and Responsible Practices, where could I get one from?
Please check out saferagenticai.org, where we list all info on the book and info related to it. Thank you.
And if we want to get hold of you now, where can we get details from you? From the same website?
Sure. Or indeed, nellwatson.com.
Okay. And Ali, what about you? Where can we find information?
I think the website is ideal place also for any burning questions that we haven't had time to address or even listen to. More than happy to engage on discussions on intelligence, relational nature, and how do we actually make sense of it on biological and non-biological nature. We are contemplating to explore this territory and maybe even come up with a book in a couple of years' time. We need to set ourselves ambitious targets, and hopefully understanding intelligence in principle is going to be fundamental to even contextualizing on artificial form of it.
Nell, Ali, thank you so much for coming on and talking today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.